So what I thought we'd do today was talk about some different ideas for what we can do in 2022 for different meeting topics, different people we can try and talk into speaking for us. I've already emailed Julia Silgi. We were reaching out to other people. Hopefully she'll respond. So
Kristen, you haven't checked the email.
I haven't. She's responded. Is that right?
She responded.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have exciting news.
And I'll let you deal with that. So I'll
Okay.
let you follow up with her about that. But
Okay,
she said
well-
yes, Todd, since you're excited. She said yes.
Oh my
We
gosh,
want to know.
That's wonderful.
I mean,
I wanted to know, so thank you for sharing.
this is being recorded, so I can't say what I want to say right now, but okay.
Well, that's difficult.
It's okay. It's okay because we can actually cut it off. So we can cut it off the beginning
No,
part.
don't make more work for me.
Okay.
So anyway, but stuff like that, we want to share and discuss, who do you want to see speak for us? Who should we be reaching out to? And we do have some ideas, so we'll tell you what those ideas are. And I have a mini presentation that it's one of those interactive surveys that you guys can put in answers to, and we can look at them together in terms of what topics you're really interested in, because there's a number of topics that we can find speakers for, but I also can present many of them. And I think Gwen and Nicole would also be capable of presenting a few of them, many of them. So I think, we can figure out how to get the material presented. You just have to tell us what you need to learn about. So let me share my screen and I'll start this presentation. So what you guys will need to do is, it has the URL here, ahaslides.com/rug.org. I'll put it in the chat if I can. And let's see, how do I even get to the chat? Okay. And you can do this on a phone or on your computer. Let's see, maybe I need to. I think if I put it like that, it's a link. So this is the first question, and I think I'll fill this out too, because I feel like my feelings count, and I think Gwen, you should also contribute.
Sorry, your feelings don't count. What do you, come on, I'm joking.
I just mean as an organizer, I think I have some say in what I think should be presented, but this first question has 7 different topics that I think are really at the core of what we do and are a lot of the time. Sometimes you don't have to use all of them, but they're pretty useful skills to have, I think, all of them. And so I'm asking you to rate them, to tell me how interested you are in these different topics. And you can tell me you're not really interested because you already know it or something. Or you can say you're very interested because it sounds really appealing. And if you have questions about what these are, I don't want to talk about what every single one of these are, but if you're not familiar with GitHub, I think that's really important because it's software called version controlling for your code. So if you're familiar with track changes in Microsoft Word, it's like that, but for your code. So you can go back in time and see where errors got introduced and stuff like that. Ooh, we have a rating. What is this? This says documentation is kind of in the middle, kind of going down.
That was me. That's
okay.
That just the first
yeah,
one.
yeah.
And me too. I submitted.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so what is this? Ooh, people are really interested in Shiny. Okay, this is so useful to know. Developing packages in R. So some people aren't really into it and some people are really into it. Okay. R Markdown is pretty up there. This is so cool.
Did you fill it out, Kristen? Did you put your
I haven't done it yet. Let me put mine in.
Why don't you stop?
Yeah. I can do it in a different window. It's fine.
No. I want to see his answers. I want to bias the sample here. What do what's the fun in statistics if you can't bias everything?
Oh,
sorry.
Well, I don't know. This is great. Okay, so which of these are the ones that are,
Most people like the most, huh?
yeah. And we can, I mean, these are data that I can download and then we can get so it's definitely web application. Someone said like not very interested, but most people seem like they're really interested in Shiny. And then automated testing is kind of bimodal. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
Just also want to point out that I did try and overload your submissions by opening up the URL in an incognito window, but we've reached the maximum number of users.
I saw that. So I'm gonna keep in my head that apparently there's a maximum number of users on this. Okay.
So it only lets 7 people use it? Is that what?
I guess we'll have to find one of these platforms that we either pay for or like something like that, because I really think these. Yes, Todd.
I'm putting out tons of surveys with Google Forms.
Yeah,
and it's included in a Gmail account.
Well, what I like about this is that it has like the interactive real-time display that I can share with you. I think that's really what's nice about this. So I'm tempted to just pay out of pocket for something like this or Menti.
Oh no, Christian, we will get some kind
Okay.
of grant or
We'll
something
find
for
money.
that. We don't want
Okay.
you paying in pocket. Because
Um,
then other organizers might have to pay out of.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right.
So.
And that's something we're trying to figure out, like behind the scenes, is grant funding or something like that. So, okay, what is this? Oh, and this makes me so happy that the highest average one is using R and RStudio with GitHub. And maybe it's because I biased it by describing it, but I think it's a really critical skill and it's not appreciated enough, especially in academia, I think. Because being able to trace back your work and also just the way it allows people to collaborate together on code with no sending zip files of code back and forth. Like we have to eliminate that.
So HBAP doesn't teach that. Is it right that HBAP doesn't teach that?
They don't
teach
that? They don't teach version control?
So, and that's, so
I really need to take a look at that curriculum. I haven't done that yet.
GitHub is
sorry, go ahead,
handy.
Sue.
Yeah, and I'm saying, so GitHub, I've been using for years since it started. I mean, I think around 2010, around that time. And and of course, R and all we were not using so much, but I think GitHub is extremely critical. Version control and all that is extremely critical. And also, like you said, for collaborating, right? So checking in, checking out, all of that, keeping track, plus the related documentation. That's why, I mean, even before that was the first one I chose that it's critical, because all the good stuff we learn is no use if we can't catalog it and manage it. Go ahead, Todd, you were saying something too.
I was just going to point out that from the Harvard Business Analytics program's curriculum and pedagogy, they do not really focus on teaching how to program. They give us code, they give us R, they show us the ropes to an extent, and that's why I'm here, because it's a gap in the curriculum.
I've been hearing the same exact things from in different departments at the School of Public Health, because I think to some degree every department is like, well, we're not the statistics department, so we're not going to teach intro to R classes. And then I don't know how many of those intro to R classes are even getting taught in the statistics or data science program. So I think a lot of people are kind of thrown into undergraduate or graduate programs where it's like, here's some R code, or just you're expected to know how to R program at some point, and it's always expected that students just can teach themselves that skill. But that's definitely a role we're trying to help fill out and justify that there's a real need for that kind of education.
Based off of my experience at Tufts, it was very similar to that, which is why I'm going to rep documentation and version control, because if you don't have any good intro to it, that's something that you wouldn't know to have to pick up or know how to pick up in the same way that you might be able to look up more specific technical aspects. So yeah, just to rep documentation, I know it wasn't scoring the highest, but as someone who's trying to self-teach R, it would be something I would find very useful.
See,
But
the thing is to actually put it into production and productionizing, which is kind of have been running for many, many years now, right? And being on the technology side. So I think it also depends. Something like HVAC is not really own technology is a piece of it. There's a lot more to it than that. This is an example. So I think in the real life, for people who run tech shops and have to actually, productionize stuff, such things, this is just one of the things. There's a lot more that you have to do to get it large scale and industry scale.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I think documentation and being able to use version control programs and software like GitHub and Git are so important. And I think one of where people kind of fall off with their programming skills in some ways in academia, at least from my perspective, is we have this culture of students working on like a script at a time or being given an example script. And then there's a huge gap between that and a whole software system, which at some point you need to learn how to build software systems. And even for academic code, we're talking about systems of software and functions and code that needs to be documented. It's no longer just one script. It's impossible to make it just one script when it's that large. And if you do, it's a terrible idea. And in between those steps somewhere, documentation and just developer tools in general, not just Git and GitHub, but developer tools have to get into.
Jenkins, name it. There's a whole bunch of them now, right? And it keeps evolving over the years. Yeah, and
Right.
That's what.
Right. Okay, so I think let's move on to the next question. Thank you for sharing your answers. I appreciate it so much. So this is, who are some people that you think we should request to speak for us? We already talked about Julia coming to speak for us. There's some obvious people that come to mind. We'll always be interested in hearing what people like Hadley Wickham have to say. I think he said I think we haven't reached out to him yet. So that's, potentially on the to-do list. We're talking, since Gwen knows Andrew Gelman, about asking him, if he possibly has the time to speak before maybe the elections, the midterm elections, since he does so much on polling and elections forecasting and that kind of stuff, and Bayesian statistics in R.
do you want people who are R coders?
Yeah, I think we.
Okay, because it is the R user group. So
right, that's one of the things that we've been mulling on, and I do think we really want to keep our talks catered to our programming topics, because we are not the Harvard Data Science Initiative, and we're not like the Institute for quantitative social science, or and so there's these other larger topic area organizations that already exist at Harvard that I think would be more suited for kind of more theoretical talks that aren't related to the nitty-gritty of our programming. That's what I think we're interested in as organizers, but and I think it helps keep the topic. They talk about like mission creep in organizations, that if you lose sight of exactly what problems you're trying to solve, then you start trying to solve all sorts of tangential problems. And I think we want to keep it really focused on, providing support for our users.
Sounds good.
Did anyone put anything in the answers? I don't know if
I didn't put anything, sorry.
I mean,
Okay.
other than Julia
didn't-
Silge, I don't have, and Hadley Wickham, I'm just trying to think like who are the other, because this is, Yeah.
Yihui, yeah, Yihui Xie. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll write these down. That's a good idea. He makes our markdown.
Get is like, so I probably have too many ideas for me to put down 3, but the other one that we could get.
You
is
can put
like-
down more.
Is
Just put
Di
them down.
Cook. Di Cook
Yeah.
was Hadley Wickham's supervisor, PhD
Okay.
supervisor. He also worked with Heike Hoffman, or I'm not sure how to pronounce her. She's sweet, Finnish, but there's all kinds of people. So what you want to do is you want to look at what are your favorite packages that you use? I mean, I could even ask Thomas Lemley, who was like an R core member. I could I don't know if Ross would come. Ross is so grumpy, but he invented R. He's like really over R. You know, I mean, it's like imagine coding that you wrote 25 years ago and still having to deal with that. It's like, who wants
Wow,
to do
that
it,
puts
right?
it in perspective.
Right? You know,
I
well,
want- does he use Julia or something now? Like,
yeah, he's actually he invented another whole language that he thinks is much better. So there you
what?
go.
Wait, what does he make?
I don't think that they named it yet. Here's the talk that he did. He's
Okay.
amazing. Here's the talk. Let me see. So he did the
Okay.
EHACA lecture series, video, and he was like, R sucks. EHACA
Wow.
talk. And he,
Well,
you
those
know,
kinds of sentiments are not allowed here. So,
well, I know it's
I'm
very
kidding.
funny though, because if you watch the video, it's very funny because one of the other R Core team members, his name is Paul Murrell, and he was Ross EHECA's PhD student. And he starts the EHECA lecture series, and he's like, Ross has taught us wonderful things about raising children, you know, because R is his baby. And one of them is like really construct it well, give them lots of support.
Aw.
And then another, and I don't remember the third one, but the second one was don't brag, which Ross does really well. He doesn't like it, so he always says terrible things about it. And then I forget what the third one was, but it's very, very funny. It's a very funny
Okay.
introduction, but then he goes on about how he doesn't like it. So anyway,
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry,
Well,
that
please
was
share.
too
No,
much
go ahead.
information. Too much information. So anyway.
Okay, but so Thomas Lumley, I was thinking about Jenny Bryan has given a talk on workflows in our studio and using projects. And I have like a super specific question I want to ask her. So I'm very tempted to just email her. My question is like, she has this great workflow that she's laid out for how to use projects, but in just the way that I work, I find like some projects I make a package, some projects I really like to have the project structure, but they're always like, it's always like I have a main package and like 20 satellite projects. And so does she have, I have my way that I'm doing things, but I'm curious what her way that she works, you know, through similar issues is, since she's spent so much time thinking about workflows, but.
Yeah, dude, I think it's a terrific, you know, you know, topic. And I think Jenny would maybe love to come and speak to us. So go ahead, ask her.
Okay,
So.
then we'll do that. I'm
I
trying
also
to think.
I was just going
Go
to
ahead.
add, in terms of people, the other way to think about this would be in terms of topics, and then find somebody who's an expert in that topic. Yeah.
Right. And that's like the next slide is an open answer question on topics. Yeah, the other like people thing that, you know, like I know some of our members are really interested in, I mean, like I do work in health inequities and social factors driving health inequities. Like I'm really interested in a lot of like social science topics and stuff like that. And especially as they interrelate with R. So that's an area, like, I know we had talked about, like, is there anyone studying like critical race theory using R? Like, is there anyone doing like where are the people who are like at that intersection of anti-racist science and R programmers? Like that's kind of people that I would love to seek out. We contacted the organizers of the Minorities in R user group, and they're too busy to speak for us in the next couple of months. But you know, we're trying to brainstorm people in that direction too, because I think some people have expressed an interest in that. So, you know, but that's a lack of names issue, not a we have the names and we just need to contact them. So, you know, if you think of people like that, or you're reading somebody's research and you're like, well, they clearly use R and they clearly care about these topics, like feel free to drop us an email and give us their contact or name, and we'll check, we'll reach out to them. Okay, let's move on. So I love the suggestion for Yihui. I would be so interested in hearing what he has to say about R Markdown or his other packages. Like he's made Bookdown and Blogdown. I don't know if he's the creators of those, but I think he is. I could be mistaken, but anyway. So, okay. This is like a super open-ended question. And I wanted to, oh, how do I get it? There we go. So I put on the screen, like, if you're not sure of what topics you would like to hear about, this website called bigbookofr.com, just go there and look at the sidebar, because in the sidebar, it's a catalog of books written about R programming, but it's a good list of topics that you can get into in R programming because it's just so authoritative. I'll even pull it up. So yeah, I mean, there's like the intro, there's like career and community stuff in R, there's using APIs in R, archaeology, there's art. Like I was talking a little bit with just a couple of you right at the beginning of this call about generative art in R, and we could get, oh, what was her name? Megan Harris. We could ask her to speak. She spoke for the Tunis R user group and she gave a really nice talk. So that would be
The
really
artist in
interesting.
me is very excited with that idea.
You would really be interested in like generative, talk on generative art. Okay, yeah.
I have a master's of fine arts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, like that is my that is my
Wow,
previous
yeah.
life. But that's where I come from.
I think you were probably not on the call when I was talking about this, since I was talking about it at the beginning, but I found this is one of many generative art blogs that uses all R code, and they share their code, which is one of the things I like about this blog, because a lot of them don't. Some of them are in ggplot, which I find fun. So, but there's a lot of topics in here. Like you can make a blog in R. There's like, you can hook up to big data databases. Like you can hook up to all kinds of external database software in R. And I don't know a lot about it, but it seems important. There's like a whole slew of books on data science, and then another whole slew of books on data visualization. Then there's all these like field specific things like microeconometrics or cryptocurrency. I guess there's books about that in R. But if any of these, are topics that you're interested in, like, Julia Silge, we can brainstorm a little bit about what she'd like, or what, I guess I need to read her email if she has a topic she'd specifically like to talk about. I know she works on the tidy text package, and that's, I'm both really interested in what Max was talking about with the tidy models framework, and I know she's involved in that. And I also know she's involved with like the tidy text package that allows you to do all kinds of like sentiment analysis and text analysis in automated, like using machine learning style approaches.
The other one that does that is David Robinson. So it was Julia Silge.
Oh, yeah.
Robinson was the other one who, and so they wrote that book together. So he could be someone else that you ask if
Yeah.
But
That's
I mean,
great.
we're just looking for ideas, we don't,
Right.
and of course we only have a small number of members right now, but whatever.
Okay. Can
The other
you guys?
thing, the pipelines thing is, I know
yeah.
someone, a good person for the pipelines. I think they do a lot of Spark stuff, or they used to. I don't know if they still do, but
Okay.
I know. someone
I
that
put
does
those in there. I want to clarify that, the AI factory is Kareem's vocabulary. So I don't know if you read his book, Gwyn, before you meet with him. Highly
No,
suggest.
I read it a year ago, and
Okay,
I still
good, then you're
have
fine.
not
You're
got to go tell him what I
So
thought
can you
about it.
describe it? Because I'm not familiar with this language.
So again, we're coming from the business universe, and an AI factory is a business model. It's the future of competing for businesses, and it's where you get new data, you're building new models, and it's the cycle of creating and increasing the value that the company can provide by utilizing new data and new models. And you're constantly doing this.
What are the things, can I just comment, Todd?
Please.
So one of the things that I took away from it is that a lot of companies have their data siloed, right?
Yep.
So you have your data, you have like HR has one data set, and like, someone else has another data set, and none of these data sets talk to each other, right? So like the example that they had from HBS is like, you have all these master students, and there's one data set for master students, and then you have like executive education, and there's another data set for that, but these data sets don't have links, right? And so it's like if someone does an MBA and then they want to come back and do executive education, they have to completely, it's like all siloed in separate parts. And so the idea for an AI factory is that instead of having all this data disjoint across various, like SQL servers or whatever, or on or off prem, the idea is to bring it all together into one data set, and so that you can, do much more easily do queries. And for example, if you're coming back for executive education, the professor, you might want to tell the professor, actually, you taught this student when they're doing MBA, so you could remember them. So
that's exactly right. And I think, there are three general pillars to the AI factory definition. Sorry, Sue, but it's the data pipeline, which I think you're describing. It's the algorithm design and execution. And then the third one is really the software and the infrastructure. And, that really implies like the cloud-based stuff. And so, and again, this is like architecturing the pipeline and AutoML. They're very related to that AI factory. I'm thinking big. I'm not thinking about just some small project in analytics. I'm talking about how do companies utilize R, because they're using Python, and there's lots of information here. How do they use R to solve those same problems? Sorry, and Sue, you were saying, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Thank you so much for clarifying.
No, not at all. It's it's kind of, so here's the thing, but the part you are talking about is more related to data management. What AI Factory and what Kareem is really talking about is a little different. It's this whole model, as Todd was mentioning earlier on, right? Is this whole kind of a process flow he's defined where you take data, you build your algorithms, you produce good results that feeds into the data, it goes back into the algorithms, and so it's this whole loop, closed loop kind of a thing, that the more data you feed, the better algorithms you get, and the more better algorithms you do, the better output it brings together. The data management piece, Quinn, you're talking about, is a whole different problem. I've been dealing with that for years and years and years. Terabytes of data pulling together, being in silos and all of that, that's a whole different thing. But these algorithms, and as Todd was saying, and that part of the analytics, that's where I feel this R part coming in, right? And exactly as he was saying, using R to make it sophisticated, better. So I've been doing that, like, when I was in my consulting role, working with clients and stuff, we do that all the time, whether it's R, Python, of course, again, I'm from the R camp, I prefer that. But using this, it helps us come out with those kind of solutions and the various models. And then using whether it's an AutoML and things like that is more to kind of streamline it, the GitHub to make it the productionalizing and doing the version control and putting the whole software system and the technology piece together.
Got it. What one of the phrases that is just coming to mind as you're speaking is deploying models to production.
Correct.
Right. So, okay, I can take that and run with it. We can try and find speakers.
Yeah, and that too could be a topic. Sorry, Todd, one quick thing on that. Because so one is typically, and especially we are doing this a lot now in real life. See, earlier we used to do this whole, from this waterfall method, right? It has come down to agile and all of that now. So waterfall was this whole long drawn, and the whole productionalizing and deployment was a different process. Now you're constantly iteratively building your models and making it from an MVP concept. You start from a pilot or an MVP concept, take it, use it to get feedback, and then iteratively build and roll out and roll out. And that is where these tools, whether it's Jenkins, CI/CD, all these other things that's coming in, right? So working through DevOps and how to then use, let's say if our whole code is with R and we are doing that, but then how do we integrate that for the rollout and the production deployment? That's a whole topic on its own.
Okay, so I could see, topics like CI/CD, GitHub Actions has been like changing people's lives, I think, in terms of our code. Like I've been seeing, like one of the things I don't like about a lot of academic code is I feel like it gets written and then we're lucky if it gets onto GitHub. And then we're super lucky if anyone ever updates it. Right? It's always like what I see all the time in academia is like, they put their code on GitHub and they're like, well, this goes with the article that was published. And that's it. And that's okay. I understand the need for articles to have like accompanying code that's just static. This is the code example. But then there's other times that it's like an analysis of current events, current data. And it's like, you'd like to see that getting updated every week or every day or something. And I've seen all these dashboards come out, and that's nice to have a whole website. But now I'm even just seeing GitHub repositories that have R code in them, and GitHub Actions that just every day they rerun that, they launch up a virtualized container and they run the R code in it, and that pushes new images and data into the README of the repository. So you just go to the GitHub repository and see a totally up-to-date analysis. And I think that's so cool. So I would love to see like a talk about GitHub Actions in R. So, but I hear what you're saying about there's a whole world out there of like agile development, continuous integration, DevOps, and seeing how that works with R is particularly interesting, because there's a lot of it that doesn't touch R at all in all of the examples you find out there, right? Okay.
There's one more
Then-
topic, as you're
Yeah.
talking about it, there's one more topic I think is important, which is not directly with art, but with art. And I'm talking all about this from my real life and all the, huge projects that have been rolling out. One is all these visualizations, right? Visualization and art, the linking on that, right? So a lot of the visualizations tool now have art extensions built in. So for example, let's just say Tableau, right? Tableau has our extensions built in. So that would be a good topic to start thinking too. So one is just the models and stuff we are doing. And I know like with this ggplot and other stuff like you were showing last time, Christian, those are there. But a lot of the organizations or even skills to develop is all these tools that already exist, the BI and the modeling tools or the visualization tools and our extensions, and how we could
Right.
use that most effectively and,
Yeah.
things.
No, that's a great point. It brings to mind this YouTube talk I've seen on using ArcGIS with, I think they were using Python, but I think ArcGIS has both R and Python integrations. So you could in principle do it in R too, but to do hotspot analysis, it's taking ArcGIS and using it for something that it's great at in terms of rendering these spatial map-based visualizations that are very interactive and easy to use on the front end, and then putting like R behind the scenes to do what it's good at, the statistical analysis and keeping all the numbers straight, right? So I think just, integrations into something like Tableau would be really interesting. Or what it reminds me of too is there's a package that I've always wanted to learn more about, the R2D3 package, so that you can make D3JS code, which are web-based, JavaScript-based visualizations. Like if you've ever been on the New York Times COVID dashboard, like those are probably all made in D3. But then, normally when you use R and you make a visualization in like ggplot or base R, it's just like a image file or something that you get. It's not interactive. And there's Plotly. Plotly helps you make D3 based visualizations, but it does so much for you that it's pretty customizable, but you're kind of locked into what Plotly thinks your layout should be. Like if you tell it you want a bar plot or something, Plotly has some ideas about what that looks like. And so to get more customizability in online visualization, R2D3 could be really interesting. So, but I think that's a great point that it's a huge topic, how to integrate R with different visualization platforms, because there's like ggplot and base R, but then there's like Tableau and ArcGIS and D3, and I'm sure there's others that I'm forgetting. So I think that's a great suggestion.
Microsoft's even making a bit of a push into R.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
Like crazy, but it's true.
Well, I know that they
I
host
think-
go ahead.
They're not calling it R though. I think they're calling it something else. It's like R base, but is it Revolutions? I think they're calling it Revolutions. Am I wrong?
That's the company they bought that was working on R, but they now ship R with their SQL Server package.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah,
Really?
they have
But
their
I
own
think
R
the
service.
But the difference with because Microsoft, everything comes with a warranty, right? And so that's the difference that, that's the
Oh,
difference.
so that's why they're like rolling their own.
Right.
And they have their own analytics platforms too. I forgot the name of it.
Is it Power BI, one of
Yes.
those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that might have an R integration, or it does.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would also be really interesting. I'm not,
Yeah.
and my personal like world views are like, I want to do it all in R. Like I want to just try and figure out how to do all of it in R. But I fully hear you that there's a lot of people out there and organizations that already have the knowledge of how to do what they want to do for the most part in these other platforms, Tableau, Power BI, etc. And just like adding in R kind of in between here and there is, could be really helpful to solve some complex problems that aren't like point and click doable in Power BI or Tableau, but are doable in code. So
I love
that's a great
that.
point.
I love that title, the R universe in an hour.
Okay, I'm nobody else is adding ideas, so I'm just brainstorming.
You should
But
definitely keep.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Christian.
I keep adding ideas. I mean, I appreciate it.
The idea was, I mean, look, I'm going into teacher mode. What do I want to know? Okay, in student mode, it's like, well, I want to know everything in R right now, so that I'm not going to be able to understand all of it, but I just want to know what's possible. What does the entire ecosystem look like from the largest perspective possible?
Todd, read the sidebar in the big book of R.
That's what I'm doing. But
Okay,
you
good.
wanted a topic. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
trying to assign somebody else homework.
That's okay. So that's a good suggestion. I mean, I think there are going to be people who haven't done that yet, and
then also because like a lot of these things, like even though they like here's a thing, but it might not be relevant to me, but it's not about what I need to know right now. It's what I need to, what I might need to know in the future.
Right.
And to have that range, this is range versus, depth.
Yeah.
That our universe in an hour is a range topic. Like, look, folks, you can do so many things with this language.
Right.
Here's the most important, the biggest thing.
Maybe, maybe we could do some kind of like combined, the R universe in like an hour and then like 15-minute breakout sessions or something to do demos, because I think if we had like a few different demos of like that actually go into some example, like I think an hour is not enough time to actually show what most of these things do. And so
it's not possible.
Right. And so like if it was even just like 5 minutes on like, here's a basic web application you can make in Shiny. Like, what are your questions? Here's a basic R Markdown document. What are your questions? Like,
I'm thinking larger than that. I'm thinking higher level, meaning I don't know. Imagine you're speaking to a person.
This could be your first talk for us. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Write it down. This will be your first talk for us.
This is being recorded. I'm going to say this publicly on the record.
This can be your first talk for us. We'll be like the R universe in an hour. It's a great topic.
It's a good topic. Yeah.
And then you can like sit down and decide what exactly it is that you want to hear, because I think you're really passionate about it. And I think it's a great, there's a, and if you want any support from any of us, the organizers, just let us know. Yeah, just let me know, because I would be very happy to listen and give you feedback.
Let me get through this semester, and maybe in the summer or the spring.
No, of course. I mean, we're booking out for whenever, but I'm just saying, but it's a great topic. I think it's a terrific one.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that you had written it up. So, but R and data journalism, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, that's a really good one.
We could get Alberto Cairo to come and speak about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know who he is.
Does he program in R?
Yeah, he loves R.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he loves R. So, and he's terrific. Absolutely wonderful. So, and it's always nice to get some diversity too. Yeah. So he loves R. He gave a talk. But anyway, we can get him.
I guess we'll need to get like a Python developer. I mean, maybe Todd, maybe you know someone. I have a friend of mine who's like an avid Python developer and knows a decent bit of computer science. So I trust him. And maybe we can because what I don't want is like a really biased shootout where we use like the best functions in R and the worst functions. I would like to actually see like if you take the best of the best and a variety, right? Like,
And
because
look,
yeah,
I completely agree with that. That is exactly right. The concern though is how do you debias that R versus Python? Because they're both brilliant languages. The
Right.
advice that I've personally been given by people who are in both universes that you need to learn both. And
right.
again, I'm stuck in a class that requires Python. I'm like, no, I don't want to learn both. I just want to learn one language so that I can excel in that language. Yet we're in this
Yeah.
universe where you need both. And for better or for worse, Python has more versatility. It shows up in
Right.
more places.
Right.
So it, of course,
Yeah.
it
I
depends.
have these like not real but nightmares, like daydream nightmares of like the end of the world, and like I find one computer and I like turn it on and all it's gonna have on it is like Python 2.7 or something. um like it won't have R, it will not have Vim, it will only have like VI.
No
And-
lambda functions, no list
Right.
comprehensions, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Right. And I'll have to like read all the help pages in Python to like reacclimate. But yeah, I love the idea of an R versus Python shootout. So I'll think about how we can do that. And I'm sure lots of people have done similar stuff. So I can just do the research and figure out like, is there someone we can ask and speak that's done some of that? Like they might want to build on that work or you know, whatever.
So the official discussion about R versus Python is like use both and
Yeah.
like meld the two.
Well,
And so you won't have like a ready fight. They won't do that because the people well, you know, like Hadley and all these people at our studio are like working really hard to incorporate, you know, have
Yeah.
documents that you can do both R and Python inside. And so that's just
well,
what I'm-
that's the point. I feel like the R versus Python ready fight, that's the beginning, that's the topic of the again, it's
Yeah.
a funny copywriting. I'm just trying to come up with ideas to bring people into the meeting. But then you're going to discover an overview. The way I would structure that lecture would be like, here's the core differences, philosophies,
Yeah.
the way people think in these languages. But guess what? Because this is the R user group, let me show you about Reticulate. And that's a demo
Right.
about how to use R in R, how to use Python in RStudio and how to work with both languages
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Right.
I want to learn that at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do.
Reticulate is really, really difficult for me to work with because I am not good at setting up Python environments. And you have to be able to set up
Okay, and then that's the
Python
other thing.
environment, and then you have to figure out how to import the packages. If you can get beyond that, I think
Is that
it's
like the
doable, but that is like the most difficult part of the whole thing. And I have spent a whole week trying to get Reticulate to work.
is that like the Anaconda, or is that like the pipenv kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all that hip crap. In fact, I gave a talk about the Reticulate stuff, and I put in the XKCD comment, XKCD Python environment. Have you seen that one of the?
No,
Python
I haven't.
environment
I don't think.
for Here's the Python environment for XKCD, and everyone laughed when it was a talk, and I gave it, and here I was like, so I had to learn how to figure out Python, and this is really what it looks like, you know, and this is
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
No,
that's it.
yeah, this is true.
this is the true picture. And I remember someone telling me I was at a job at work, and I was like, okay, all I have to do is figure out how to set up a Python environment. And they were like, well, should be easy. And I was like, okay, if it's easy here, I'm just going to send you this map and you tell me what to do.
Right. Yeah.
And they wrote back
Um,
and
oh
laughed, and
my
I was like, this is why I don't work. I mean, it's really difficult. And this is why Python is hard to learn, is because setting up an environment is really
okay.
challenging.
But so here's I guess my take is that it's kind of weird to me that in Python, it's such a norm that when you build a new project or an environment that you do all of this pipenv stuff, because it would be very analogous to R, like using PackRat or REnv with every single project, which I mean, like if you're really into that, that seems reasonable, but it's not a requirement for like every single data analysis.
That's a problem. You just said PackRat and REnv. I don't know those tools. And these are best practices that are gaps in my knowledge. So And quite honestly, I feel like it should be one of the first things that everyone learns, period.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Sure.
gonna install the latest version of dplyr and this and that and the other thing, whatever, but I should be doing this in PackRat or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
PackRat
Todd makes a good point on that. Yep, yep.
So
Okay.
Totally.
PackRat and the R environment. So one of the things that R really works hard at is making everything backward compatible. And they're not, and so that means, so like so there are times when R is not backward compatible. I just found one like last week, I think. But like, and it's a very simple thing, Kristen. It's like string as factors is now false.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. And so it's just a very simple thing, but it changes things. And so, but the idea with R is that everything should be backward compatible. So like you can open code that you ran 10 years ago and it will still run today in the newest version of R. And that's one of the problems that our core team works with, is that when they update things, there's like 50,000 checks they have to run because they want to make sure that code doesn't break. Right. And that's one of the things that Python doesn't have. Python, it's like, do you have Python 2.6 or 3.6? And you have
No.
different
Python does have those environments that you can encapsulate all of the packages inside of a bubble, so to speak.
But that's different than backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
No. It's because it contains everything that you need at that stage.
So I hear what you're saying. I think the difference, so there's a difference. There's backwards compatible in the sense that like I've specified exactly what versions to use. So those versions are always going to stay the same no matter what year it is, right? That's the backwards compatibility that you get by using pipenv or PackRat or REnv. But then there's like backwards compatibility Gwen is talking about, which is like if you run your code in R version 4 versus 3.6, like it's probably going to do the exact same thing.
Right.
And that's a different kind of backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
That's backwards compatibility without PackRat or REnv or pipenv.
And that's
I think
also base R. You're talking about base R, not the packages.
that's true. I mean, I think the packages,
I'm
I
referring
guess
to
they
the
vary like totally, individually, but I haven't run into that many like backwards compatibility, but you're right that it is a best practice or it is a suggested practice to specify exact version numbers or minimum version numbers when you're developing R code, so you know what you're actually relying on.
So there are things that like this is going to be deprecated.
Right.
You'll get those warnings in dplyr and tidyverse like this, like as .tibble is no longer used. It's as underscore tibble because because they hadn't realized that they wanted. I think they call it snake case. Snake case when they built as tibble, so they put as .tibble because that's what everyone was doing. And so there's always things that they're learning. But one of the things about R is that and especially RStudio is that when you put a whole bunch of software engineers in a room, they're going to build software, and so it's going to keep changing, right?
Yeah.
And so this is something I've had discussions with people on the education team. I'm like, I can't keep up; it's always changing, and they're like, I know, we have a hard time with it too. It frustrates them as well.
Yeah.
So
I got to drop off in a minute, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I just want to point out one observation of what you have on the screen right now. Christian, that's called a curriculum.
Right.
Just, when it comes to what you're thinking and how you want to structure that and the content that this organization is now starting to discuss and build, that's what you have right now. And that's valuable.
True.
But so what does someone put in AWS? You want to learn what do you want to do in AWS? Like,
yeah, that was me. I think I put most of those. Like using R in AWS. Like right now it's SageMaker, which they were talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
In the business SIP. What if I've got R code? How do I deploy that? It's part of how do I deploy that into an online pipeline with the data lake and getting it into the cloud, because I can't run these models on my laptop.
Right.
Oh, so you're
I think-
talking
no.
about, like, a cluster computing, like.
Possibly
cluster com-
that
Yeah.
too.
Or-
Yeah.
But
Or
that's
more.
another level, right? Like at
Yeah.
a minimum, it's just running our code in AWS, right? Like,
And that's, yeah, so that's one
a
of the
minute.
things. I think what Todd is really talking about is taking it again beyond a pilot or an MVP concept to again productionalizing, right? Industry level. When you take into large scale, so when cloud is now, right? So earlier we used to have on-prem solutions. I used to have worked with terabytes of hardwares and all. Now it's the cloud. So AWS, Azure, Databricks, depends on what you're using. So I think taking it beyond that, and how do you do that to make it large scale for industry consumption for the small things that you start with? Because that is not
Right.
going to happen on the laptop, exactly as he's saying.
mhm.
And I'm
Okay.
not talking about RStudio.cloud.
Exactly.
That is
Right.
effectively useless.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't tried it, but I'm getting a clear picture.
I had a course where they wanted us to use it here at Harvard and it's just, no.
It's a painful experience, huh?
Yeah.
It's no advantage to it. I mean, I go
Oh, okay.
faster on my MacBook Pro.
Oh,
Well, because
awkward.
they are not geared up for it, right? They are more geared up to give you all the utilities and stuff, and they've just created their own little bit cloud environment.
I
Whereas
see.
things, companies like AWS or Azure, Microsoft, and all, they really are large scale cloud computing
Okay.
built
Yeah.
and
So
made.
We can-
I've run our stuff in AWS. I don't even remember what I was doing, but I spent some time working in AWS on that stuff.
And
It was
you know-
like years
And
ago.
Gwen, what would be nice as a part of this endeavor, what we are working on, not only these topics, and ultimately contributing to making it like a uniform process that others can use, and building that and putting
Right.
that onto GitHub itself. We could do that. So if somebody's
Yeah.
looking at it, just like your big book of R, we can prepare our own things too, where we kind of
Right.
add on, and
Yeah.
that as an open source, it is there. People can
Right.
contribute to it, and it can
Yeah.
be used further.
Right. I will definitely, I mean, I will look into like who can we get to speak on these topics, because I would be so interested. My background is like I took a class on high performance computing at Tufts, and Tufts has a cluster that they use. And now I'm at Harvard and I've done similar things on the Harvard cluster. But I only know that like cluster environment that it's run on Slurm. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it.
Yeah,
You
Storm,
submit
Kafka and all
jobs
that.
and it schedules
Yeah.
the jobs for
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
and you can
yeah, yeah.
request a number of CPUs or how much time
Yeah,
and how much
yeah.
memory and stuff like that. And like that was a whole thing to figure out how to run our code on that with all the dependencies I wanted. But I'm still super interested in like, how would I do that if I didn't have a cluster? Like, how would I do that if I had to use AWS or Azure, or there's other stuff out there too, like DigitalOcean and Linode and other stuff. But I think, yeah, getting somebody to speak on this would be really interesting. I
Yeah, and
wanted
some
to,
live demos and actually showing
Right.
some stuff and building it,
Right.
just like how you did the ggplot thing, Christian.
yeah,
That kind of a session would be super helpful.
yeah, of course. Okay. I don't want to spend forever on this slide. I want to get to, I think, the last slide. Yeah. And so the results are hidden, so I won't like show your stuff on anyone's screen. But if you feel like you want to help us organize and you're like affiliated with Harvard, put your name and email in the chat, and we can figure out how to have you help us organize this thing, because there's a lot of moving parts. We're trying to, manage it ourselves. We're, always brainstorming, like, is this a grant we want to apply to or something? And I mean, we could use help. Like, that's just the way it is. So, and Gwen, I think Gwen is applying for. Go ahead.
It's not a full time, I don't know
Oh,
how
yeah,
much time
no.
to spend on it. Like Kristen and Nicole and I pretty much set everything up. So all you have to do is like schedule meetings. I don't think
Yeah.
it's gonna work at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
And I
try to keep
don't
it pretty
know.
light.
Yeah. And I probably won't be at Harvard after June. I
What?
think.
Right. And that's part of why we're
Because my
looking for.
postdoc's ending.
So they don't let you hang out ever? I mean, like they're gonna take away your email address and you can't even come to our user group? They're gonna
No,
Well,
keep
I mean,
you-
she's allowed in.
I'm
Like,
just not going to be an organizer. I'll probably still come. I just won't be an organizer.
Why not?
Because we made the decision that you had to be affiliated with Harvard to be an organizer.
Well, then I'm no longer affiliated with Harvard. I graduated, so I can't be so never mind. Take my name off the list.
once you graduated, you're always affiliated with Harvard.
Yeah.
I mean, technically I conferred, I didn't even graduate, so I
But
don't.
but I think that I don't think I get to keep my email
I mean,
address.
so
Why?
yeah, logistically
do.
speaking, the
We
major
do.
reason,
Oh, really?
We do. I do still have my email. I still have access to everything. That's why I'm still affiliated with other stuff. You're saying something, Christian. Go ahead.
You definitely get an
yeah.
alumni email address.
Yep.
Oh, but even if I finish with a postdoc, because I don't know. I don't know.
That's a good
sure.
question.
I don't know.
if
Because I
alumni
know, Gwen,
get,
I know that we do. I know we do. I just Christian, you ask for it. I just give you both my email. I don't check my Harvard one as often, but I do. It
Okay.
is still there, and it very much I get emails from them on it, on events
Yeah.
and stuff and everything that comes in, and I'm still allowed to attend those events as well as I.
so what we could do is let's figure out, Gwen, if you as an alumni can have like either keep your email address or get an alumni email address. But secondarily, the reason we really need a Harvard affiliation is because part of the work involved is managing our collective inbox.
Yeah.
Like we get requests, we get, and you,
Mhm.
I mean, just in terms of the IT, like we have to be able to
Yeah.
share the email
Yeah.
address with you. And it's not like there's a username and a login. It's like I'm authenticated with my personal Harvard account
Yep.
to access this
I-
email. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I won't be able to help with that because my
Yeah.
email, even though it's not in that environment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Same here. Same here.
I see.
Mine also
Okay.
is the same. Our Harvard HBAP emails are not into that because then at least when you're a student also you have the student thing. So you're
Yeah.
right. You need someone, in the last meeting we had Jeff Polzer attending.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Jeff Polzer, he was one of our professors in Harvard Business Analytics program. He's amazing. And he used R so much in the people analytics. It was
Okay.
super. I think you may want to check with Jeff. Jeff should be
Yeah.
able to help us give some contact.
Okay.
I
That would
would
be
also reach out, to another person, and
Hmm.
I'm happy to reach out myself if you want, but you could, is Michael Parson.
Yeah.
He is amazing, and he helps endlessly.
Wow. Okay. That's high praise.
Yeah, Michael Parson, and Michael Parson is actually he's in the course that we have, which teaches R and FQA
Okay.
and statistics. So he
Yeah.
does the statistics and the R part. So absolutely, we should reach out to him.
Yeah.
I would reach out to Michael Parson.
Okay. I will take your advice. Thank you.
He's
But
at
Michael-
HBS right now. He's moved from the statistics department into HBS because
Okay.
the business school is now teaching statistics.
Michael,
Oh, yeah.
BOZER.
PARZEN.
I'll put it in the chat here. You'll have it here. Yeah.
ZE.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Well,
I've
Michael
talked to some
Parson.
people that I work with who are faculty, and there's some interest, I think, from like people around the biostatistics department or in the population health sciences to contribute to this at the organizer level potentially. And also, I was just talking to them about brainstorming what to do if we applied for grant money, because I find it a little weird because I feel like Gwen and I and Nicole have come up with lots of little things that we would spend money on. Like we would spend money on like an interactive, presentation platform like the one we just used to support more people or something. Or like we would spend money on getting transcripts written for our talks or even live transcripts for accessibility reasons.
It's
What's
built
that?
into Zoom.
I know, but they suck. And they don't do very well with our code. I mean, our like technical terms.
Oh, the vocabulary.
Yeah. And so like paying someone to do like live stenography essentially. I mean, maybe not live, like maybe that's too expensive for us, but like to even just have a written, accessible, transcript of our talks, I think it provides value. And so that's something
yeah.
we would be interested
Totally.
in paying for. But then I personally find this like weird mismatch of we have these like little item things that we would
Yeah.
pay for. But then when
Yeah.
you go and look at grants, like HDSI has a grant, or like, I mean, there's the Presidential Administrative Innovation Fund at Harvard that is a grant. And it's like, we can apply for these things, but they're looking for like a sweeping research program. And it's like, I brainstormed with some faculty about, we could try and study how teaching you guys things, like all of us learning things, affects our programming and our productivity.
Mhm.
Like we could measure those things and that would be really interesting, but that's just one like research idea that could kind of maybe warrant a grant that maybe could pay for these other things we want to do. But it generates work, right? Like we need more
Yeah.
organizers to be able to do that amount of work.
Absolutely.
So
And
yeah.
we could, and the more we can, if you brainstorm more, there's more ideas that I mean, I can
Right.
share with, and even spreading it in industry. Before I forget, there's one more person I would reach out to from Harvard Data Science Institute with Kareem. He was the co-founder of HPAP,
Okay.
David Parks. I would reach out to David Parks.
Okay, David Parts.
Yeah, let me put that in the chat
Yeah.
here too. Yeah, so David Park is amazing. Okay, he was with the co-founder with Kareem for Harvard Business Analytics program, and he comes more from the engineering and data. See you, Todd. Stay in touch. So he comes more from the data science and the data engineering. So he may also be able to help us with any kind of, and especially getting the infrastructure and things that we need to host some of this stuff.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
It's so great because these are the kind of people that I probably would have met if I were not remote. during
Right.
the
Yes.
I
pandemic.
mean,
I'm good.
I don't know
Absolutely.
any of them.
you know,
I don't
and
know any of
and-
them. So like this is, because I don't
So
take
Gwen, you know what? Gwen, that's what I was saying. What we used to do as part of HPAP, we could go to campus and attend all these. So I've actually met them in person, not once, many times.
Yeah, I don't know any of them. I've never met any of them. I've never been on campus. I have no idea. I mean, I have walked around Harvard before I was there, but I just, I don't know any of the buildings. I don't know, like, I know we have this new fancy lab that they just put up, like this new fancy building for C's that I've never been to, but
the new convocation hall, that's where we got our, we graduated. And all the whole ceremony was there. It was amazing. I've actually met Kareem in person many times, as I was saying. So, but no, I've given you some names. I think if you look at it, David Parks, of course,
Yeah.
is much, and he's way up on the, pipeline also. So I
Yeah.
think any of them should be able to help us.
Right. Okay. That would be wonderful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing these names, and I'll reach out. We'll
No, I
reach
would
out.
love to see this grow. And then the other thing that and people like me can help, and I think you all be talking right now, like kind of we are only into the Harvard, but if you want to go for expanded beyond,
Yeah.
because that's where, you'll have more. But I think first we should make it a bit stronger before we go outside of the Harvard, give it more structure and stuff. At a particular time, we can also think of going beyond, and especially in the industry, and connect with
Yeah.
me on LinkedIn, guys. By the way, you'll find I have tons of connections. So happy to then start, once we feel we have the right structure and we have come into a
Right.
good cadence, then we can start opening it out, but then we will need some solid
Yeah.
infrastructure tools and
Right.
stuff to host it. It won't, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it'll be much more many more people.
Yeah, I can respond to a couple of points there. I mean, one thing is we definitely have realized, like, when we're bringing in these bigger name speakers, we need to pay a little bit more attention to promoting the event so that it's, it's fair to them. Like their time
Yes.
is really important. They should be speaking to an important audience, like not just, 6 people in a room, right? And so we acknowledge that. We have organizationally come up with a list of ways that we're trying to promote ourselves, including like on social media. And I think maybe adding LinkedIn would be a really good idea. So thank you for that. But then, in terms of getting our content into like the Harvard Data Science Initiative newsletters that they send out, we didn't advertise this meeting, but bigger events I think are definitely worth advertising on that kind of platform. And then finally, I mean, we just are open to anyone. So anytime that you want to promote our events to your connections on LinkedIn, I don't know if it's better for us to have like a LinkedIn first so we can make the post and you can kind of repost it and that kind of thing.
That's what I feel. So I think why don't you guys set up a LinkedIn group, just like we have a Harvard Business Analytics program group. You set up the group, we affiliate to that, and we can be like organizers there. And when you put a post there, then I can actually take the post and put it in my post and blast it to my community. And especially when you have those big speakers, sorry, 1 minute, then if I blast it and they are invited, now you will have a much bigger audience for your special speakers.
Right. Is a group on LinkedIn different from like a single page? Like, do we have or should we be an organization page, or should we be
I am not
like a
exactly
group?
sure, Christian.
We should ask Nicole to figure that out. She's the one that's good at that.
That's true. Okay.
She knows
let me know too. I would like to know about that too. That way we can, and we can kind of set that up initially. I remember when we did Harvard Business Analytics program, we were the pioneer cohort. one of the students actually set up the first page. So it is maybe as
Yeah.
simple as just setting up a page,
Right.
but later Harvard took over it. We
Sure.
started it actually as students, and then Harvard took it over. So now it
Right.
has an official recognition by Harvard as well.
Right. Okay, that's a great idea. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And we can blast it then. Yeah. So we can put this whole structure. We can have a couple more meetings to put all this
Oh,
together. And then
yeah, and-
just-
My last comment was, you know, for those really large events, I think I kind of like having the, you know, large events and then smaller, more
Yes,
informal
yes,
things. Like I
yes,
love that.
yes.
I love being able to connect to people in like a more, you know, just person to person level. But we can get the Zoom like the webinar, you know, set up from IT. So we
okay.
did that for Max Kuhn's talk. I don't know if you noticed the format like was a little different, and like, you know, Max was a host and we were hosts and stuff like that. He was like a, you know, presenter or something like that, right?
okay.
And that's the system that's designed for like to host 1,000 people on a call or something like that. So
Nice.
we definitely can get that.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And then
So
you
so
can
we
take
just have to
polls.
email.
Yeah, you can take polls, you can take stuff, feedback, those
Right.
kind of things. You can do it. Good.
Right.
Got it. Yeah, that'd be
Exactly.
nice. That'd be
Okay,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm happy to
All right.
help. Feel free to reach out, you know, if some things I could do and whatever.
Yeah.
Happy to promote it through my LinkedIn and any other things, just even if you want to brainstorm ideas.
Okay, thank you so much. That is so appreciated. I think we've gone plenty over. It's now 6:30.
Yeah.
Time has flown. So thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate it.
No,
Have a
this is
wonderful
great.
meeting
Keep
you.
going.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
absolutely.
Thank you to Rich. Stay in touch. One last thing I'd also suggest, I think what used to happen, and this happened to me particularly too, that I think we may also want to consider some of our meetings later in the evening, because typically till
Okay.
5 people have work. So especially if you
Okay.
want people outside of university, like my
Yeah.
group and all, who I know from industry, but they would
Yeah.
probably be, if you had it like a 7 or something Eastern.
Okay. That's a good point, because, you know, it might be more accessible to
Yes.
people who are in like later time zones in the US. And then I hear your point, like a lot of people work until 6. So,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. I mean, we might try to like change it up, like some at 5, some at 7 or
Exactly,
something.
mix and match. So you have
Right.
like kind of distribution, that way
Yeah.
you get more audience. I'm just, you know, sharing some
Yeah,
thoughts.
that's a good idea. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Nice
Have a
meeting
good
you
night,
all.
everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.